And now, please welcome Juan Franco and Jamie.
All right, I get excited. I get to hang out here on stage with one of the top IUL producers of all time. We were talking some numbers backstage, and Juan has personally written over $3 million in premium with IUL. So you guys ready to listen? All right, so there's a lot that we can talk about when it comes to why IUL. The number one thing we want to talk about was quality of life, okay? The quality of life has changed so much for us as we've evolved in this business. One of my buddies is out there. I can't see anybody, but Dan Chernati, if you're out there, you changed my life a year ago. You took me out to lunch in Greenville, South Carolina, and you said, why did you get into business in the first place? And I said, to make money. He goes, dude, what are you talking about? It's for time freedom. I was like, you're right. I forgot. That was the whole reason I got into business in the first place. And he's like, dude, if you evolve and you learn IUL, your quality of life will change. So Juan and I have been talking here over the last couple of days. Both started out as internet lead, final expense, mortgage protection agents in the home, transitioned to telesales, transitioned to IUL, a lot of transition, a lot of evolution. And the number one thing we want to talk about is that if you're not evolving in this business, if you're not getting better each year, if your closing percentage isn't going up, if your leads are the same from last year, this year, if things aren't getting better for you and you're in the exact same position, you're not growing. And I think there's an evolution in this business, and we're going to grow up in this business, graduating from internet leads and final expense to mortgage protection to IUL and annuities. So Juan, tell us just a little bit about what was that point of disgust that you came to where it was like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah, it was, the first 2 years were all final expense mortgage protection, and I remember my wife asking me, says, so how long can you keep doing that? I said, I don't know, it's gonna get better. I just knew something was gonna get better.
And if you're a wife out here and your husband says, I don't know how long we're gonna be doing that, does that give you a lot of confidence in their plan for the future? Absolutely not. I had the exact same conversation with my wife, Katie, and she said, how long can you do this? If you repeated the last 2 years again, are you gonna make it? I'm like, no, I'm gonna burn out. So we have to do something different. And I wanna make sure there's a huge disclaimer here. We love final expense, love internet leads, love mortgage protection, but it's growing up in this business. You learn simple case design, how to sell life insurance, and then you're gonna watch your app count go down, your premium per house go up, your persistency go up as your skill set goes up. So I remember my first year in the business, I did $420,000 in premium on, I think, 560 individual applications. So my premium per house was less than 1,000. My second year, I did 550 on under 400. Premiums going up. My third year, I did 500 on, I think, 250 apps. And this last year, it's just kind of ridiculous. I think I wrote 150 apps and et cetera. It goes on and on. We were talking about his numbers. His biggest year, 1.3 million. And he said his average premium per house was 7,500. So how many that's like 150 individual applications for the whole year?
175.
175? What's that, 4 applications a week? So when things were really hard in this business, I was writing 15, 20 applications a week. I remember being on Grady's leaderboard in the beginning, and I wasn't trying to go for #1 most premium. I had this weird pride thing of, I want the highest app count this week. I want everyone to know that I killed myself and I worked the hardest and I knocked on the most doors and I'm willing to kill myself for this business, and I wore it as a badge of honor, how hard I worked, how much time I missed with my family, and it caught up to me. I had probably some of the hardest years of my life, even though I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life, and it absolutely caught up with me. I was the heaviest I had ever been. Last year at convention, I was 320. Grady called me, we did 75 hard, and now I'm down to 240, and I told people, Josh Lockhart's like, you should get up on stage and say, hey, I lost 80 pounds selling IULs. And I was like, well, all right, technically that's true. But Juan, tell us just a little bit about how that quality of life has changed for you.
Wow, tremendous. I went from, I'm not as young as some of you guys, so it's kind of like I started this career at 57. The first 2 years, I had no time for my family. Now, I have a ton of time for my family. I have more money than I ever had before in my bank and doing the things that I really want. I travel the world. I basically spend probably one of the things that I enjoyed is basically traveling. So that's big for me. And then the first 2 years I couldn't do it. And now with the IULs, it's been like an amazing change because I can sit down, help people, but I don't have to stack up my calendar like 12 or 15 or 20 appointments. I can stack up 6 good appointments and make a great living. Or 8 appointments and make a humongous living. You don't have to have a team to do that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things we want to talk about, because I remember going, when am I going to get balance back? There's no such thing as balance. I think you can kind of harmoniously have all the different parts of your life work together. Balance is BS. But when am I going to get that back? And someone says, you have to build a team. So I went all in on building a team. And then my wife goes, well, when's the team going to be big enough? I'm like, never. So like, is life ever going to get any better? No. And I had the exact same conversation with my wife. Like, what's next? I don't know. And that's not a great conversation to have. So being able to have that quality of life and time freedom because you've learned this skill set. So when you hear that, it's like, is the skill set worth learning? I think it's worth learning. I think it's worth evolving in this business. I think it's worth getting out of your comfort zone. I remember when we went from final expense to internet leads, and the internet leads didn't have the hobby on it, I was so uncomfortable. I was like, well, what do I say to them if I don't say, well, your favorite hobby is knitting or your favorite hobby is watching TV? And then we went into mortgage protection. I'm like, well, that's different. That's scary. I got to learn that. And then going from in-home to telesales was a whole thing. I was terrified. We had a leaderboard, and I remember seeing the top 25, and 24 of the 25 were doing telesales, and I was the only person on the leaderboard still in the home. I said, okay, the team decided we're doing telesales. So I had to learn it. It was uncomfortable. And then the team said, well, I'm really interested in IULs. I was like, well, if I don't learn this, like, how can we lead the team? How can we teach them to move forward? And I think the biggest thing I've noticed is quality of life across our team.
Right. It's not like I will say, if you have ever written rode a car, a used car. When I was in college, I used to ride selling books door to door, an old car, and now I drive a Volvo. It's much different. I cannot go back to driving an old car. It's the same thing. Once you change to IUL, you're never gonna go back to mortgage protection or final expense. I mean, I would say nothing wrong with that, but it's just much better, IULs.
Yeah, it's a great place to evolve to. So if you're somebody who is currently selling final expense and mortgage protection and internet leads, I just challenge you. Go get a batch of IUL leads, and it's not that complicated. I think one of the biggest things, you hear IUL and you start hearing terms like cap rate and all these things. What is a cap rate? I'm not even sure if I know what a cap rate is. You have to understand, most of our leads that come in are middle America, and they're not people who are crazy educated financial professionals. So you say things like, hey, Bob, it goes up, but it doesn't go down. Keep it very simple. Hey, Bob, if you die, it pays out. That's how I sell life insurance. That's how I always have sold life insurance. That's how I sell IULs. I think that you can get into the weeds. And then some of you guys, you really love IULs, and you love it for different reasons than the clients might love it. So you get excited about sharing your favorite benefits with the clients, and you get really into the specific indexes and all these things, and clients' eyes are glazing over. And there are some clients who will be very interested in that. We have to learn to kind of read the room with the client.
Exactly.
And sometimes less is more.
Exactly.
So, Juan, I guess for somebody out here who is like, I'm trying to transition, I'm trying to evolve, I want to sell IULs, I want that quality of life, what's your last piece of advice?
Get into a lead flow system. There's plenty of good IULs. If you need help getting like good IUL leads, let me know. I can help you. But that's basically the main thing is just IUL leads is kind of like just like mortgage protection or final expense leads. You can get an IUL lead that people are looking for that. Once you start calling them, you sit down with them, that's it. You'll believe it. You don't have to be real knowledgeable like Jamie said. I have people in our team that just got started. They don't know much about it, but they already sold 2 or 3 policies. So you don't have to be like the number one knowledge of that, but you need to go and call people. That's it.
100%. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.